Every little girl grows up dreaming about her happy ever after, but most of us don't have fairy tale scriptwriters making sure we get it. That's where the Happy Ever After show comes in. If you have been waiting for a fairy godmother to wave her magic wand and release your frustrations, create the prosperity you want, and live a life you love, then listen closely. It's time to learn how to make your own wishes come true with your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to this episode in the Double Your Business season of the Happy Ever After show. I am Cassie Parks, and this is the third, what I would call a bonus episode, because I started recording episodes to go along with the Double Your Business book, so that if you're not a reader, I actually prefer to listen to stuff so that those of you who are more of podcast listeners could get the same information that's in Double Your Business. So there were, originally 13 episodes, and we're now on episode 16 of the Double Your Business season. But I think that they're all, I did a couple of extra, the last two have been extra bonus, not extra, like valuable information. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you all, and I'm putting it in Double Your Business because I think it's important. It's what I'm going to talk about today. I know that you're here because you want to double your business without doubling your hours so that you can actually enjoy the life that you've created. And what we're going to talk about today, which I'm super excited about, is when and how to invest in your business. Not just, I've talked a little bit about this on an earlier episode early on in the podcast about the different types of investments in your business. But what I'm going to really talk about today is my personal philosophy. And this is exactly how I make decisions about what I invest in my business, because I think there's usually an investment to be made to get you where you want to go in order to double your business without doubling your hours, so that you can actually enjoy the life that you've built. You have to become different. You often need a different skill set. So sometimes it's the investment, that my clients like Jill made. Jill made the investment with me, in 10 days, she's doubled her business. So there's like that investment. I have other clients. One of my clients, Tammy, she just did the same thing, and you're going to get to hear more about her story soon in a lot of ways. I'm sure I'm going to have Tammy on because she's phenomenal, and I would love for her to share your story with you. But, she's in my year-long group, and one conversation, she 3.5 times her business. So she more than doubled her business. But there's an investment, in working with me, and, she did do the workshop first, and that was an investment, and then continuing to work with me is an investment. And so, I'm really happy to say, and so she, her investment is paid off multiple times, right? But there's an investment to be made. And sometimes that investment is like Tammy and Jill, and it's in working with me and, my other clients. And sometimes that investment is learning something or doing something, or it's in advertising. And so I'm going to talk more about sort of the taking a course, something like Double Your Business or working with a mentor. I'm going to talk about that. That's more what I'm going to talk about today in terms of how I sort of make that decision, because I think it's not something that gets talked about, and I think it's important to know, like, your future self probably knows how they invested to get to where they are. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Super excited about that, because it's something that I just recently realized that I do differently, and I go about it sort of with a different mindset than a lot of people, and I think it'll be helpful. So, and speaking of investments, the thing that I'm so excited about right now is that I've made the decision. I'll talk a little bit more about how I went through to make the decision, but I am investing in a magazine of my client stories. So it's a magazine for my business, but it's really to showcase the work that my clients have done. And when I say the work, I don't mean, necessarily, the things that they've, the work that they've put into their business, but I mean the work that they've done to become who they are, and really to showcase sort of where they were and where they are now. And I'm super excited about that, to get to showcase their success and just sort of show that off, because, my clients, they work hard. And I'm not opposed to saying work hard, because when I say it, I don't mean just like go beat your head against the wall, work hard. What I mean is that I believe that it's not easy to change who you are and to step and to grow into that person that you're becoming, the future yourself. That person who has doubled their business without doubling their hours. Getting there is easier when you're clear, but there's a certain amount of internal work that goes into changing who you are and stepping into that person. So I'm excited to be able to celebrate that, looking forward to working on that and just highlighting and celebrating their stories. So look for that to come out if you're on my list. There'll definitely be a digital copy and the opportunity to get hard copies as well. So I just want it to be inspirational as well to people who come in contact with my work, to know what is possible, what other people have done. And I think when we see those stories of what other people have done and created and opened up into their life, it automatically opens our own minds to see what else is possible in our life. So I'm excited to share that. It's my exciting news. If you have loved this season of the podcast, which is called Double Your Business, you are definitely want to go to Amazon.com and grab your copy of Double Your Business. Just go to Amazon and put in the title Double Your Business and it'll pop right up, and grab that so that you can learn how to double your business without doubling your hours. A lot of people I've heard like having the book to read and sort of refer to the steps. And don't forget, you can also go to doubleyourbusinesswithcassie.com and get a video course. It's going to guide you through the same things. So let's get into, I'm excited about all that, but I really want to talk about our topic today. So let's get into that. So my personal philosophy in terms of investing in business, it used to sort of be invest in whatever you think would work. That strategy didn't work very well. But, that strategy came out of attempting to be the person that I thought my future self was. It came out of being that person who had a successful business. I thought that, I remember hearing, and I don't know where I heard it, but I remember hearing it a lot. Like, you have to invest if you want your business to be successful. And so I did that a lot. I was always willing to do that. That was what I was always open and willing to do, and just like anything to make it work, right? I was working, and I would take, what I worked hard at work for, and I would invest it in my business as like what I thought would make me successful. And it didn't. I learned a lot of lessons, a lot about what not to invest in. But, that's who I was. And I really did. And I always say, it's that thing that you think is going to a lot of times be the magic pill. Even if you think there's still work involved in it, I would often invest in the thing that I thought like, oh my gosh, this is going to get me there. This is going to get me there. And I invested a lot of money. I've added it up before, and I don't know what the exact number is on my business. That was up to that, sort of, I categorize my investing in my business in two significant sets of data, right? There's like pre-clarity, I guess I'll call it. And then there's post-clarity, right? So the thing that hasn't changed is that I'm willing to invest in my business because I do believe that you can invest in your business and you can get where you want to be faster. And for me, I'll talk a little bit about that when I get into the nuts and bolts, but getting there faster means you're making more money quicker. So that investment, in theory, is going to pay off. So let's talk about how I make investments. So when I'm talking about investments in my business, I really do look at, and again, there's an earlier podcast on this, like, is this an investment sort of in my future self? Like, do I need to know, is this a set of skills I need to have, right? Am I going to learn something that's going to take my business to the next level? And there's sort of like big level skills, like that's what I consider my mentor. Like, she's taught me overall business stuff, right? That I should have learned in all of that thousands of dollars I invested before, but I did not. So there's sort of the overall, right? She's not teaching me, although she will like sometimes, give me pointers on Facebook ads and stuff like that. Like, she's not teaching how to do a Facebook ad. Right? That's not what I'm learning from her. I'm learning how to run a business, how to be a leader, how to structure things, how to set up certain stuff. But really like that overall picture, which was what I needed the most, that has been the most significant thing that I've gotten from her, is really how to run a business and how to look at the numbers of a business and get clear about where you want to go. And then there's things, I mentioned Facebook ads. So there might be like a Facebook ad course, right? Like you could take a Facebook ad course for $500, take one for $2,000. You can get somebody else to work on Facebook ads for you for, $15,000. So, there's a whole range of how you invest in that. And I think we have to invest. I've found that I have to invest in certain things that grow me personally so that I can grow into the business owner has the mindset and really the mental capacity and emotional capacity and spiritual capacity to serve in the way that I want to serve, in the way that I feel like I've been called to serve. And that's bigger picture, like that's learning sort of stuff. And that's what I put my mentor in, and then like I said, there's like the Facebook, and then there's, other things that you can learn. I'm going to a class to teach how to structure my signature talk in like a month. And I'm so excited about that just because I'm ready to have that kind of guided structure. I know, I can get up and I can talk about anything, right? And I can create a talk, but I think there are strategic ways to create a better talk, and for my audience as well as myself to be able to deliver, when you only have a half an hour or an hour, like how do you deliver what's most important of your knowledge, and how do you deliver it in the most impactful way so that the people in the audience are, in 30 minutes or an hour are getting the best of you. So that's an investment I'm making. But let's talk about like big investments. And I consider, and I'm just going to be honest, I consider working with me one of the bigger investments, right? Working with me is in the thousands of dollars, not in the hundreds of dollars. And I think when you want to invest in important growth, it generally happens in the thousands of dollars. Like I have done things, I've done things for $100 where in the hundreds of dollars where I've learned things, but I've never significantly changed who I am in the hundreds of dollars. It's when I've invested the thousands of dollars that I've seen the most growth. And there's a couple of reasons for that, which I think we'll save for another show. But so often I think when you're talking about growing in terms of, really stepping into your future self in your business, it's an investment in the thousands. And you can agree or disagree. But for me, what I have found is that when I make an investment in the thousands, I grow exponentially more, and I become more of the person who's leading my business and serving at the best of her ability. So, and when I think about that, I think about like college or getting my master's degree. When I decided to get my master's degree, it's because I wanted to become a counselor, right? And that was in the thousands of dollars. That was a significant investment, that I analyzed before doing it. I didn't just say like, oh, today I think I want to sign up to be a counselor, right? I made a decision that I'm going to invest in becoming a counselor. And I'm going to not just invest the money, but it was a significant amount of money, right? At the time, I think it was $16,000. So I'm going to invest that money. I'm also going to invest money for me. I knew I was going to have to take time off of work to do my internship. So it was, a loss of money or, money I wouldn't be earning because I would be working at my internship. It was also the energy it was going to take, right, to go to class full-time while keeping a full-time job. And the time, like for those 2 years, most of my time went to homework. So it was all of those. And it was a significant amount, right? It wasn't a little bit of time. It wasn't a little bit of energy. It was a significant amount of time, money, and energy. But I was investing in who I was becoming. And at that time, I was becoming a counselor, right? As you all know, that sort of took a turn because I am not a counselor. So, but I did finish, and that's a story for a different day. But the choice I was making in that moment was like, this is who I'm going to be. That's going to be my career. And so I'm willing to invest the money. And looking at it, when you look in terms of college, you go, okay, like the difference, is a counselor you could make in the 50,000s, right? About, let's say, and is without a master's and not officially a counselor, you can make about the 30,000s. And this was at this time, and it's probably different in everywhere. But that was sort of the data that I was looking at. It's like, I'm going to invest $16,000 to be somebody who makes 40 to 50. 50 might have been a little high at the time, but 40 to 50, right? And so I made that conscious decision. Like right now I could go out when I didn't have my master's, I could go and I could get a job and I can make somewhere between 25 and 30,000 in a psychology field. And again, this is my experience. So I can make that amount of money. Or I can make an investment of about $16,000, lots of time, lots of energy, and I could get somewhere in the 40 to 50 range. And so I said, okay, like that's a 1 to 2 year payout. Like the more money I'm going to make, it's going to take about 2 years to pay that back if I were to just pay it back. Or if I got a loan, it would have been different, right? And that's how I look at investing in things that are going to change who I am in my business. You know, when I hired my mentor, it's a significant amount of money, right? And it's more than I made at my first full-time job. But I looked at it and I said, okay, like this, I looked at it the same way I made that decision to pay $16,000 to become a counselor. Like, who am I becoming? I'm becoming somebody who's a $500,000 business owner. That was the decision, right? Like I was like, okay, here's my first year officially kind of business outside of my job, I made about 10 grand. Like I said, okay, I want to go from a $10,000 business owner to a $500,000 business owner. And, I did all the things that I teach you guys. And so the path to her and this path was super clear. I didn't just decide one day like, oh, I'm going to hire this. All things took me to this path. And so, when I made that decision, I really looked at, okay, like I look at it. And so the other thing, I just gave the example of like going to college, right? Or getting your master's degree. And I know that's how like teachers in my area, like they make that decision, right? So in Colorado, there's always a salary schedule. So you look at like how many years of experience you have, and then what's your education? So you have a bachelor's? Do you have a bachelor's in some other classes? Do you have a master's in some other classes? And you can look at how much money you're going to make. And so I pulled it up, in your second year of teaching, if you have a master's, it's almost $5,000 different. So if you were thinking, okay, and a lot of teachers do this, they go, okay, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to spend $16,000 or $20,000 to get a master's. And that, in 3 years, and they look at it a couple different ways, but in 3 years, like I'll have, that extra money that I've made will have paid for that. Or they might look at, okay, like $5,000 a year is about $400 a month. I think the loan payment would be about $250 a month. So I'm going to net $150 a month extra if I go put in the time, the energy, and I spend and I invest this money. And quite often they go into debt for it, right? If I go into debt, which I'm fine with, I totally get I get the math, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to spend 20 grand and I'm going to get an education. I'm going to be able to make the payment, right? So they know, okay, my salary is going to go up by about $5 grand, $400 a month about. I'm going to be able to make that payment and I'm going to be able to make some extra money. And that's like forever, right? Like that's extra money forever. Or if they put everything they made extra towards, paying that debt, like in 3 to 4 years, then they've paid it. And then they're just outright making $5 grand extra a year for the rest of their, 20 more years doing what they're doing, right? That's a good return on your investment. If you think about that, let's say that you said, okay, I'm just going to pay it off. If it took you like maybe a master's is $20,000, I haven't actually looked it up lately, but let's say it's $20,000 instead of $16,000, right? And you go, okay, $5 grand a year, 4 years, I'm just going to put all the extra money I make towards paying that off. So 4 years later, you have, you're making $5 grand extra a month. So, awesome. So if you did that for 20 years, that's an extra 100 grand. That's a good investment. Like, did they go into debt doing that? Yeah. But it was there's a cost benefit analysis that happens. And that's the same thing entrepreneurs do, or I think they should do. That's the same thing I do. Actually, let me put it that way. That's the same thing I do. When I think I'm going to invest, the first thing I think of is like, okay, if it's a significant investment where I might think of taking out, not paying cash for it, like maybe, and I make this decision sometimes if I do have the cash, right? I'll say, okay, what's the loan on this? If I go into debt for this, what I don't like saying go into debt because debt doesn't like bother me, but when people say go into debt, that like throws up this thing. So I'm going to invest and I'm going to do it on a payment plan. I'm going to say it like that, right? So if I say, okay, I'm going to do it on a payment plan, I look at what I'm learning or what I'm doing, and I say, do I think working with this person, like, can I, first off, my first question is, will I make enough money to pay to service the payment plan, right? And if the answer is yes, I'm like, awesome. And then for me, I really look at it like, okay, am I going to make 10% more? So like if I were to invest $10,000, I don't know, I think that might, depending on where you get the loan, that could be $100 to $200 a month. So let's say I'm going to invest $10,000 in my business. And I'm like, okay, is this going to bring in an extra $200 a month or an extra $2,400 a year? And if I can say yes very clearly, I'm like, cool. So then I take it a step further and I said, okay, well, this made me, it's $10,000. Will it make me another $1,000 a year? Will it make 10%? Right? Which is crazy. So $1,000, like about $80 a month. It's 83 something. And so I'm like, okay, can I make 280? If I invest in this thing that's $10,000, do I think I'll make at least $283? I probably round it up. Do I think I'll make at least $300 a month more based on what I'm going to learn? Right? And if the answer is no, I should definitely be out, right? Because I shouldn't invest in something that's 10 grand if I don't think I'm going to make another $300 a month, right? But if I like do the math and I'm like, yeah, right? Like similar to what I did. My mentor was more than that, but like I looked at it the same way. I took the numbers and I said, okay, do I think what she'll teach me can make me, X amount of dollars a month? And if the answer was yes, I go for it. And I said, yeah, I definitely do. What I think so many entrepreneurs get hung up on is like, oh, that's like a big investment. I don't have that money right now. And while I get logically where you're coming from, I don't understand it. Because you're in the business of making money and growing. So I'm going to just be honest. Like, I don't understand hitting that wall, right? You're an entrepreneur and you got to believe in yourself. And I'm guessing that if you were in a job, right, where you could pull up the salary schedule and you said, okay, I know if I do this, because this is the thing about when you go to school, like when you get a master's, right, it's not, the salary schedule isn't based on, oh, if you sign up for a master's or if you pay for a master's, right, it's if you complete a master's, we'll pay you $5,000 more a year. And so some entrepreneurs, I think they don't finish things, right? And so that's where it's like, oh, I can't invest that money. Well, if you're going to finish it, and if you knew if there was a salary and schedule in front of you that said, if you pay $20,000 for something and you complete it and you do all the work and you dig in and you figure out, like whether it's how to write a paper or how to do the mathematic calculations or whatever it is that you're getting a master's in, like you do the work and you finish, we're going to pay you $5,000 more. Like I'm guessing most people, if they were at a job, like they do that. They do that math. Teachers and people in education, like this didn't happen at my corporate job, right? That wasn't an option. I could just like go get my master's. They could care less if I got my master's. They cared less that I spent $16,000 on my master's. They weren't paying me any more money because I had a master's, right? Partly because it didn't fit in with what I was doing, but partly like they didn't care. It was about the job. It was not about your education. But like this opportunity exists in education. And so, that's how I look at everything, and I also take in some, how I invest in real estate as well, which is basically the same thing. If I'm going to buy $100,000 property, I'm going to have to invest 25 grand. So the first thing I always ask myself is like, can I pay for that $75,000 payments that I'm making, right? Because if I put down $25,000, I have $75,000 to take payments on. Can I make that? And if the answer is yes, I'm like, okay, if I'm putting down $25,000, I like to make at least 10%. So can I definitely make $2,500 a year or a little more than $200 a month on top of the payment? If the answer is no, I'm out of that investment. If the answer is yes, I'm usually in, right? And that's like a 10% rate of return. And so many times, I just see entrepreneurs not go for it. And it breaks my heart. And that's why I'm like passionate about teaching the way that I do it, because I think some of it is just not knowing. Like if you weren't a teacher and you don't know that there's, you know, a system out there that actually like pays you to learn stuff and to have more knowledge, you know, and granted, like you're an entrepreneur, so nobody's setting your salary schedule, nobody's guaranteeing that. But so often, if you make that financial commitment and you commit to finishing whatever program it is, or it's learning Facebook ads, it's getting a mentor, like you're going to make that money. But so often what people see is, you know, I use the example of a $10,000 investment. Like maybe you want to invest in a $10,000 course, a $10,000 mentor, right? And my workshop is not currently $10,000. So that's not, if you're thinking, oh, her workshop is probably 10 grand, it's not 10 grand. It's not that much. But, you know, it's like, can I use this to get better and better and better? You know, but so many times I hear entrepreneurs and they see a $10,000 price tag and they just take themselves out of it. It's like, oh, I don't have the money. Boom, shut down, everything closes off. And like the truth of that in terms of, you know, being a money coach, like that blocks money from coming in. It's like, I don't have it, I can't. Wall shut. You're not just shutting down from what you want to do, you're shutting down from allowing. And it makes me so sad because I want entrepreneurs to sort of be able to look at this like your business is an investment. It's an investment in you, and look at the rate of return on it. Look at the rate of return on the things that you learn. You know, I for sure have already gotten 100% rate of return, more than that, you know, on working with my mentor. So I went a little bit longer into this because I get really passionate about teaching this, because I think it's sad if you don't know how to analyze it like this, because you might be holding yourself back. I find it sad because I know what a leap, you know, investing in my mentor made. I'm just so thankful that I did that I have my own process of how to do that. So, you know, that's that. I also said, like, so the second way that I invest in my business is on pure gut. Like, I just know, right? But I'm clear, like I can't see an ROI. I'm not expecting an ROI. I just know I need to do this. And that's the investment in the magazine. Right? So I'm doing the magazine. I just know my $500,000 business owner self has this magazine. And so I'm making that investment. But it's clear I'm not expecting a return. I'm doing it because it's an investment in my future self. And so that's clean. I know what I'm going in for. You know, and in fact, like making the investment, I know I'll make just by having it. I'll make the numbers that I said to you, but I'm really clear that this is a gut investment. It's not a planned out investment. And I think as an entrepreneur, when you can learn the difference between those two investments, and you can get really clear about 90 to 99% of your investments should have an ROI outcome, and you should be able to get clear with yourself about that. Not guess, not hope, but be like, oh yeah, if I put this money in, I totally see how I can learn enough to become the person who's making this, and you know, that has the rate of the return. So I'm pretty much out of time. I could probably just talk about this forever, but because I do love the numbers and I love talking ROI. But so I just want to put that out there. You know, when you're thinking about investing in your future self, get really clear, like actually do the math on the ROI, because it'll make all the difference in the world. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the Happy Ever After show, where you don't need a genie lamp to get your wishes granted. Now that you're inspired and ready to take action, get yourself on the path to your happy ever after by scheduling a complimentary strategy session at createmyhappyeverafter.com.